What's your name and what's the event about today?
So my name's Harry, I'm a nurse specialist and I'm with NHS Workers Say No. Today we're at the Workers Summit, which is about rank and file trade unionists from across the country, different sectors from health, education, we've got the Amazon workers here, we've got the Mungo strikers here, come and share their experiences really to find out, reflect on the strike wave so far, find out what's been good, find out what's not gone so well and reflect on how we can link the fights, how we can fight to win, reject bad deals and kind of share experience really and grow as rank and file trade unionists to put the pressure on the unions to act in our interest.
Yeah, you mentioned like the linking of the fights and obviously more and more people seeing that as like a critical thing that's missing from the movement at the moment. How do you feel about say that the Trade Union Congress has just passed by and much as it's supposed to act as an organ to link fights, it doesn't seem to be doing much of that. Do you have any thoughts or ideas on what they could be doing better?
Well, it's tricky. So, I mean, my union, the RCN, isn't affiliated to the Trade Union Congress. But what we do have, so for example, at NHS Workers Say No, we represent all of the 14 health unions as a rank and file group to put pressure on all of the health unions to work in the interest of the NHS, because in the context of the NHS, we need every single worker in there to have fair pay and we need every vacancy filled. And I think, you know, we're linking in with Educators Say No, PCS Say No, to form a rank and file basis to that, because we believe in the power of the working class to organise themselves without direction, which is why I see hope from events like this of rank and file workers on the shop floor really taking the initiative to drive through the change they want to see. So I think it's one of those things where we've got to make it happen for ourselves. And if the unions and trade union councils, if they support us, fantastic, but we can't wait for that. We can't wait for Labour Party, particularly even, to come and rescue us. I think we've got to do it for ourselves. So that's what the events like, today and some of the ones we've seen across the summer are all about.
Fantastic. And just one last question. What personally involved you in this struggle? That if you were to point to one moment that pulled you in and got you involved with organising?
I think it was mostly when the RCN balloted its members and we voted to go on strike for the first time in its 100+ year history. I think it was a real moment of realising that actually we can do something. You know, it's a historic change. We went from being a servicing union to a union that's actually going, well, hang on, what's going on? And the more you look into it, you realise the detrimental kind of aspect of policies on the NHS, the effect on patients, the effect on staff, and then being involved, obviously, I met amazing trade unions from across different unions, from the NEU, from PCS, from CWU, and realising that the strike is actually fundamental for all workers, whether you're a consultant within the NHS, whether you're a train driver, it doesn't really matter, and recognising that we've all got that shared claim. We live in a country which is more unfair than it's ever been. We're seeing shareholders' profits go up in the billions whilst we're still living under austerity, and it's got to a point where I think everyone is fed up, and it's a really powerful moment, I think, to bring people together and recognise what we share in common rather than what differences we have, and to fight together.
Yeah, brilliant. And with regards to the NHS in particular, what do you think are like the burning questions with regards to the NHS? What needs to be addressed first and most strongly?
So first, it is staff. We have over 130,000 vacancies in NHS England. We have almost 50,000 nursing vacancies alone. We need to fill those, and the only way to fill them is to address retention. The only way to address retention is to address pay. We're seeing NHS workers are down about 30% on average since 2008, and we're seeing vacancies drop at the same rate. So they are connected. We're also seeing mass privatisation of the NHS, which is something we fight against wholeheartedly, and we're seeing it being asset stripped really by this government. You know, money is in the NHS budget is being written off as PPE fraud. That comes from our pockets, that comes from patient care. So it really is under attack on multiple levels, but addressing staffing by fair pay, halting and reversing privatisation, paying off PFI debts, those are all crucial things that if the government really cared about the NHS, they would be doing straight away.
And just to clarify, it's the government that needs to be targeted for this?
Yes.
More than anyone?
100%. The government are the ones.
It's not to do with the trusts, it's not to do with the staff or even necessarily the admins, it's the government.
It's the government. You know, people talk about, 40 million spent on this management. 14 billion was written off as PPE fraud without a question. That is money direct from the NHS purse, and it's very easy, and you know, the NHS is the biggest employer, it's a large organisation, it's easy to point to big numbers and make them seem overwhelming, but the government is gaslighting us. NHS waiting lists were at 7.7 million. When the Tories came to power, they were 2.6 million. When COVID hit, they were about 5.4 million. By the time industrial action started, they were already over 7 million. So when they turn around and say, it's COVID, or it's things that are outside of our control, it's just lies, because we know that actually when you look empirically at the evidence, it's not. It's mismanagement of NHS funds. And it's easy to say that the NHS budget is bigger than ever. It's going to get bigger every year anyway. We have an ageing population with more complex care. We want it to grow. We want care to get better with it. but also we've got to look at where that money is actually going. Out of the 30 new diagnostic centres that were set up, 9 of them are private. That's a choice. There's only about 900 full-time equivalent doctors in the private sector in England, and there's about 140,000 NHS doctors. So the private sector doesn't have the capacity. They say this myth like there's these big empty hospitals with doctors and nurses just waiting to provide care. No, it's not. It's a choice to take money out of the NHS, give it to a private company. We've just seen one of the biggest Tory party donors make 135 million off NHS contracts. It's, to be honest, it's fraud, it's theft, it's robbery, pure and simple.
Brilliant. And as one last, if you had to make a last message to anyone who sees this, isn't really aware of the Workers' Summit or the individual struggle of your union, what would that be?
Just get involved, come and find out, speak to people, come to picket lines and meet the people that are actually striking. You know, the media try and misrepresent it as like it's these political movements. It's not, it's workers who are getting political because they have to. So just get involved, come and find out what we're about, come to some of the events, get down to your local picket lines and chat to striking workers.